Lesson 9.13, these are word problems with similar triangles, level 1. It says Nicole is 1.55 meters tall, so it has her labeled here. At 2 o'clock, she measures the length of a tree shadow to be 30.05 meters. So shadow is formed by the sun casting kind of down this way, but the shadow is going a horizontal distance. They have it labeled. She stands 25.6 meters away from the tree, so that would be this horizontal distance here to here, so that the tip of her shadow meets the tip of the tree shadow. So they share this point here, her shadow, tree shadow. Find the height of the tree to the nearest hundredth of a meter. Make sure you're reading what they're having you round to. They like to switch it up on you. Okay, so my triangles are formed by this common point here. Here's small triangle, and then of course the whole triangle. So what I'm gonna need to do is subtract 30.05 minus 25.6 to figure out what this distance is. That is 4.45. Okay, so I'm gonna compare this distance of 4.45 to the whole distance, this bottom leg of the big triangle of 30.05 equals, and then I'm going to compare her height to the tree's height. And then we simply cross multiply, divide. And nearest hundredth would be 10.47. Hundredths place is the second digit, but you look at the third digit, the sixth, it makes it round up. So 10.47 meters tall is the tree. Number 2, to indirectly measure the distance across the river. So that means to be able to measure it without actually measuring something across the river. Chi stands on one side of the river and uses sight lines to a landmark on the opposite bank. Chi draws a diagram below to show the lengths and angles that she measured. Find PR, the distance across the river. So that's here. Got her to see. Round your answer to the nearest foot. So we're not going to have a decimal on this one. Okay, so I cannot use just from R to O. That does not give me any part of a triangle, but I am going to need it to show this whole side from P to O. And so I would have X, which is just from the landmark to point R across the river, to the whole thing would be X plus 135 equals, and then I'm going to have R to E, 265, being compared to O to C, 340. We're going to cross multiply, so we know we're taking 265 times X, 265 times 135. Ooh, big number, 35775. Cross multiply here, you get 340x. We know we want to subtract 265x. That's 75x. So we know we're taking this divided by 75. And it does divide evenly. I'm shocked. 477 feet. Okay. Number 3. This one is different, so make sure you're still watching. A pole 5 feet tall is used to support a guy wire for a tower, which I always thought it was called a guide wire. I guess not. So the pole is actually here. This is the tower, obviously, and this is the guy wire is going from the tower to the ground. And then after placing the pole, Madeline measures the distance from the pole to the stake that she put in the ground, and that is shown in the diagram, so that's 3 feet. She's also got here, it doesn't say, but from the tower to the pole is 19 feet. And all we have is obviously this height of the pole. Okay, so my triangles share this common point where the stake is. So here's small triangle, and here's the whole triangle. I'm going to start with small. I could say 3 is to this whole length, so that means 19 plus 3, which is 22, as Here's the problem though. I'm not trying to find the height of the tower. If I were, yeah, I could use the 5. But I'm not using that part of the triangle. I need to know the hypotenuse. Remember, hypotenuse is the side across from the 90. And the only way to find that is to use Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean theorem was created by a guy named Pythagoras. He discovered that for every right triangle, if you take the leg and square it and add it to the other leg squared, it gets the hypotenuse squared every single time. So these two are your legs. This is your hypotenuse. So in this case, I have legs, not the hypotenuse. So I would have 3 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared, x squared, whatever you want to do. And I just go ahead and put them on there. 3 squared plus 5 squared, that's 34. But to get the hypotenuse, I have to undo the square and square root that, which is not going to be a nice number. It's called an irrational number. And I'm just going to make it like 5.83 right now. So that's from here to here. So I'm going to use that in the top part of the second fraction and put it over x, which is going to be the whole length of the big hypotenuse, which is the guy wire, which I want to find. Cross multiply, divide. And you should get to the nearest foot, 43 feet. And that's it.